Perfect. Good evening, everyone. And thank you so much for being here with us tonight at our College and Career Ready Night. We are very, very excited to talk to you tonight about our law pathway. My name is Alvin Lewis. I am the CTEP division head at John Hersey High School, and we have a great group of panelists with us here today who will introduce themselves, what they do, some of their background, and then we'll go ahead and get started tonight.
Who's starting, Kathy?
I guess I'll go first. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Kathy Higgins Mora. I practice immigration law in my offices in Wheeling. I have had the opportunity to have several interns from School District 214 over the last several years, and I currently have one apprentice, which is really cool. She's a senior at Elk Grove Village High School, I think, if I got that right. So yeah, I practice immigration law. I'm also a parent of a Wheeling High School graduate who's now in college. So happy to be here.
Hello, everyone. I'm Robert Nauman. I'm a principal of my own firm, Nauman and Associates, with a few attorneys here in Elk Grove Village. And like Kathy, I've had many interns and have an apprentice this year who apparently the district decided to flip-flop us because my apprentice lives near Kathy and apparently her apprentice lives near me here in Elk Grove Village. My background education, I graduated from Judson University in Elgin. That's where I finished up, although I attended a couple of other schools for undergrad. And I've been practicing a variety of law on my own for about 19 years, but in total for just over 20 years, 21 years as an attorney in Illinois.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jody Blazek. I am a teacher at John Hersey High School in the law pathway. I've been teaching law classes. This is my 25th year now, but started the pathway at Hersey teaching American law, constitutional law, criminal and civil law, and also our dual credit course with Eastern, which is our college legal research class. I got my bachelor's degree from Bowling Green State University, where I also played volleyball. And I went on, got my master's from Roosevelt University, also my LBS 1 from DePaul, and then my political science certification to teach the law pathway through Eastern Illinois University. So excited to be here tonight.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ariel Losner. So I don't have any degrees. I'm a high school student. I'm a senior, and I've had the opportunity to intern and apprentice in some of these places. So I did an internship with Kathy this past spring, and then I started an apprenticeship with Mr. Nauman over here in Elk Grove. So I've had the opportunity to do both internships and apprenticeships. And I've also taken law classes throughout my time in high school. I started my freshman year, and then I have taken college courses in law as well, dual credit courses through Eastern Illinois and currently through Harper. So I've kind of been in your shoes, and I've kind of gone through a lot of the legal pathway during my time in high school. And it's good to be here.
Awesome. Thank you again to our panelists for being here. As you see here is our course sequence in regard to law. Our panelists will dive deeper into some of these courses that we offer, when they're offered, and again, the process. And then finally, if you're looking for the academic pathway, it is on our website. So if you go to www.d214.org, click on the academics tab, and then the academic programs and pathways guidebook. You'll be able to see all of our offerings here within the district. As we get started today, again, I want to thank the panelists for being here. And we're just going to kind of go through a course of, or a sequence of questions with our industry partners, with our D214 teachers, and then our D214 student. So for our industry partners, as we start, describe a typical day, what a typical day may look like in your world of law. Kathy, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, I'll start. And sorry, I didn't give much introduction as much as everyone else. I guess I'm a little humble, but I wanted to also really super quickly before I answer that question, say that Ariel, when he was an intern with me, did a wonderful job. He's fluent in many different languages, which was super helpful to us at my office where of course I handle immigration law, so I have people that speak different languages. But sorry, to get back to your question, a typical day at my office, it's what I do is very transactional. I'm not the kind of lawyer that goes into court and litigates and orally argues my cases. I do occasionally get to go to administrative hearings, like for a citizenship interview before the US government or a green card interview. But most of my work is transactional, meaning it's paperwork, essentially. If I'm making an argument, I'm making it in writing and I'm mailing it in to the government. So I never get to meet, I often almost never get to meet the officers who will decide my client's fate. They don't hear my argument orally. I just have to write it all up and send it off to them and hope that when they're reading it in their little cubicle, they agree with me and grant the benefit that my client is seeking. So I help people apply for green cards, citizenship, humanitarian benefits. There are many different ways to apply for immigration benefits, whether you're a victim of a crime or as a battered or abused person. I also help people renew their DACA and more importantly, look for a pathway to green card if they have some kind of temporary status. So in my office, I have a handful of people, mostly students, working with me. I'm the only attorney. And we're basically I'm meeting with clients, figuring out what it is that they're trying to accomplish, determining if they're eligible for that benefit, and then explaining to them how we make it happen. So again, it's a lot of writing up arguments to the government, but it's also a lot of oral communication with my clients to understand. Many times I need to understand kind of the whole story of their life. I need to really dig into what's going on in their life in order to know the facts, to be able to make an argument as to why they deserve the benefit. So a lot of communication skills are super important, oral communication, but also in writing. You have to describe things. And then sometimes I'll get a decision from the immigration service and it's not necessarily well written. It might be a canned answer that they send oftentimes, and it might not actually apply to my client. So sometimes it's like interpreting, what are they trying to say? And what do I have to accomplish here? So it's not really a typical day, but was there another question that you asked besides typical day?
No, just looking at the typical day for
Okay.
writing.
Yeah, so I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much. Mr. Nauman?
Yeah, I think this kind of depends on what type of work you do and where you're at in your career. So as a young attorney, a lot of focus on litigation. I get to work, get out to the train, go down to the city, go to court. I'd have motion practice, hearings, arguments in front of the court, come back, research, draft briefs. On the transactional side, there'd be negotiations, letters on contracts, back and forth, phone calls with attorneys and whatnot. As my career has advanced now at this stage of my life, there's other attorneys in my office that go to court. There's other attorneys that handle the transactions, the real estate closings, whatnot. And my job is mostly meeting with clients. I mean, just slogs of meetings with clients all day, either initial consultations or more advanced meetings with clients. My hearing practice is limited now to the really, really brutal matters. So I only go in on trials or certain motions that are pretty extreme because there's other people handling that. And then I'm also doing a lot of zoning, which means I have to appear before village officials in the evening for public hearings with my clients on occasion.
Thank you so much for that. As we transition to our District 214 teacher, Ms. Blazik. Ms. Blazik, can you describe the courses that you teach within the pathway and what content and skills are students exposed to in your classroom?
Sure. So we have 4 law classes that we are offering 2 each semester. We actually have American Law, which is our introductory course that's available to freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. It's a 1-semester course. We do 3 main topics: an intro to the law, lawmaking, lawyers, the court system. We also do an introduction to criminal law, which most students are very interested in. That's where we are right now, kind of wrapping up that unit. And as part of that unit, we do a mock trial, which is a case that I didn't mention earlier, but I also coach the law team, the mock trial team at Hersey. That's an extracurricular option for kids that are interested. But their first exposure usually is in class, and we use a case that was one of the ISBA high school mock trial cases from a few years ago for that. And then we wrap up with a family law unit. We do have some guest speakers that come in. Our school resource officer, Detective Johansson, comes in and talks a little bit about a career in law enforcement. We have Mr. Donald Cosley, who is an attorney. He focuses on criminal law as well as family law. So he kind of bridges the gap between those two units for us. And we usually take a field trip to the Rolling Meadows Courthouse, as well as the Arlington Heights Police Department, to kind of expose kids to, the law in the real world. After that, we also offer constitutional law, which is this semester. Students must have taken the intro American law class. So it's sophomores, juniors, and seniors in that class, but also one semester focusing primarily on individual rights and liberties, more Supreme Court case studies. We do a mock trial and then also a moot court, where they're going to turn that initial mock trial case into an appellate argument before a panel of justices. And we have criminal and civil law second semester. A lot of my freshmen will continue on and just take that their freshman year, but it's open to any level as long as you've done American law, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. So we have a nice mix in American law as well as in criminal and civil law. And that just really carries on, obviously, a quarter of criminal law, getting into more detail, focusing more on the investigation. We have an FBI agent that will come in and speak to kids in that class. We have usually a field trip to Chicago Kent Law School, both this semester and second semester typically. And then with civil law, we're going to be doing obviously civil cases, torts, liability, contract law. So giving them some exposure. And we do a mock trial in both semesters. So we'll do a criminal case as well as a civil case in that class. And then the capstone course, if you've taken all three and are a junior or senior, is the college legal research course. That's run in along with Eastern Illinois University. And so the grade that kids will get from that class will actually be on their transcript, from Eastern. They'll get credit for that college credit. But they'll be doing research, writing briefs, again, another moot court, as well as mock trial and moot court activity in that as well. That's the brief version.
Awesome. What an opportunity our students have. Absolutely amazing opportunity. So Ariel, I'm going to kind of piggyback that over to you. And I want you to talk a little bit about your experiences within the pathway. What courses did you find influential to what you want to do post high school? And what parts of that did you find helpful?
So I can speak to this as a student. So I took the beginning law sequence. I took American law and criminal and civil law my freshman year. And the reason why I took those classes was I think initially they put me into like an engineering elective, and thank goodness I didn't go into that because I am totally not suited for that. I'm not like a math science person at all. So I started with that my freshman year, and I knew like vaguely that I wanted to do law, but I wasn't really sure like what it entailed. Like I wasn't necessarily the most aware of what the law really meant. But I think taking those classes with Mr. D my freshman year, that really like helped give me a baseline understanding of what this actually means, what lawyers actually do during their daily life, and what actually comprises the legal system. And then during my junior year, I took constitutional law and the dual credit course that Ms. Blazek was talking about through Eastern Illinois. And that was definitely a very engaging experience. My course was taught by Mr. Wool, who is a retired lawyer. He has a law license still. And we did a lot of mock trials, like Ms. Blazek said. And it was, I mean, these are elective courses, so the academic pressure isn't necessarily there as much as it is during in a core course. So it's definitely something that allows you to really like get a good understanding instead of just worrying about your grade so much. But I will say, when it comes down to it, the experiences that I've had in high school that have most affirmed my career choice in the law was definitely the internship I did with Kathy and the apprenticeship that I did with Mr. Nowman. And if you like, I can speak to that a little bit more, but I don't know if that is really part of the question that you were asking.
We're going to touch on that here in a little bit because I think that is a very, very crucial part of what we do here in District 214. So we will touch on that in just a bit. As we come back to our industry partners, looking at our high schoolers, our students who are coming into high school, or students who may be in high school, what can they begin to do now to prepare themselves for a career in law?
Well, that's a good question. So like I said before, my practice involves a lot of reading and writing, but also oral communication. So obviously high school students, some are very outgoing and like to talk a lot, and others are very shy and reserved. And I think if you can get any experience where you can have exposure to putting yourself out there and like mock trial, for example, that wouldn't probably be my cup of tea. When I was in law school, I did mock trial a couple of times. It was required and then it was optional. And I realized pretty quickly after I did the optional mock trial, I was like, yeah, this is really not for me. I like to talk, but I don't really like to argue orally. I kind of get nervous. And so you kind of have to find what is it that you really want to do and build upon what your talent is. Or if you feel like you're lacking in oral skills, then just give yourself some experience so that you won't feel nervous, or you will feel more comfortable, because after you do something, obviously you're going to be more comfortable. So for me, it's a huge reading and writing. If you want to go into law, you really have to be very strong reader and writer, and you have to kind of enjoy it. I always tell people, like, my son was really a math guy, so he would never, I assume, not want to go to law school because he doesn't like writing papers. He prefers to do math or science and those types of things. But the people that come to me are usually the kind that are like, oh, I could write an email to that client. Can I do it? And I'm like, of course, and then there'll be an email back from the client asking more questions. And so it's like constant writing back and forth, or communicating with the client by phone. And every time a client asks a question, there's more questions to ask them in order to give them the right answer. So super important to get communication skills, whether it's oral or writing or reading. All of those are critical. For me, math is never, it's just not something that I need. Obviously, I use it, but not like a high level. I never went on beyond, like, I don't know, algebra 2 or whatever that class kind of was required. But that was okay. I knew that math was not my forte, so therefore I chose this path. But yeah, super strong communication skills is the biggest issue. And in my practice, most of my clients speak Spanish, or at least they prefer to speak Spanish. They may understand English just fine, but they prefer Spanish because it's their native language. So for me, whenever I have people that want to work here or do an internship, I'm always very careful to say, you really need to be fluent in Spanish. If you're not comfortable speaking Spanish, this might not be the right internship for you, because you're going to be left out of some of the fun meetings where we're going to be communicating all in Spanish.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nauman?
Yeah, I kind of want to dovetail or build on what Kathy said, because I think really focusing on your own talent is important. You'll notice when you're entering law school that there is no particular undergraduate degree that's required. You can have an undergraduate degree from anywhere. And the law is present as a profession in virtually every field you can possibly imagine. So whenever I've spoken to groups of high school students, I've said, don't necessarily overly focus on something that there are communication skills, reading and writing skills. Certain things are ubiquitous, but I don't do nearly as much reading and writing at this point in my career as I did as a younger attorney. My undergraduate was in business management, and I had a career in business for a few years, several years before I became an attorney. I'm running this business right now. That there are certain aspects of your career that have nothing to do with arguing or writing briefs and whatnot. One of the associates here is a patent attorney, right? He has an undergraduate degree in chemistry. I happen to be pretty strong in math when I was younger. So don't necessarily exclude yourself from the field because you say, well, I'm really a math guy, unlike Ariel, right? Or because that's really, not what I want to, it may still be for you, But as Kathy said, you're going to have to be able to handle some rigorous reading, some rigorous writing. You're certainly not going to get through law school if you can't handle some rigorous reading and interpreting some cases and spitting that back. So there's going to be some hurdles that'll be very high for you if reading is not your thing, and if writing is not your thing. But if that is not where you want to spend the rest of your life, you want to stand up in court all the time and barely write anything, oh, there's a job for you. If you want to focus on numbers and financials, you want to be in the business aspect, there's plenty of opportunity for that too.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for all those different aspects of where law can take us. From the teaching end of things, Ms. Blazek, you touched on it before, but I really want you to dive into some of those external factors or some of those external experiences that we provide our students. And if you could you talk a little bit about your classroom? I think it's one of the coolest things that we offer within the district. Can you talk a little bit about that experience that students will get?
Sure. Yes. So I know I mentioned, some of the field trips that we take, obviously, to, to the courthouse, to the police department, to Chicago Kent Law School, but it's the law school too, I should touch on. That's not just like a visit. Students get to interact. They usually, one of the field trips is focusing on a Supreme Court case each year, where they get to interact with law students as well as law professors at the school. So they kind of get a taste of what it's like in a very small, shortened version of what it's like to be a law student for the day if they were going to be going to law school. We do have, those guest speakers that we mentioned, also corrections officers coming in. We have a forensics unit as part of our criminal justice class that's second semester, where they get to do fingerprinting, molds, look at, blood spatter analysis, really figure out what it is to be out, on a crime scene. So not just always all about being an attorney too, trying to provide lots of options. As you've mentioned, there's lots of options in the field of law, and it doesn't necessarily always have to be being a lawyer, but we do have, my classroom is a courtroom. And I believe that all the 214 schools now do have their own courtroom for classrooms as well. So that's really a great experience for kids, in that every day they're coming to class, they're coming to court. I feel like it really kind of sets the bar for kids when they walk into the room. To be on and be on their game. Some students like to sit in the jury box in my classroom. Some of them prefer to be in the gallery. Some of them are up front as if, they're the lead attorneys every day, kind of taking charge. But obviously it's a great opportunity too for when we do run our mock trials. We usually invite, our principal, our administration, teachers, counselors. I usually ask the kids if there's somebody special, they want to invite to come in and be on the jury, and that jury will make the decision in the case for them. And we have been lucky in that we're fortunate with some of the partners, just like those that are here tonight, that they are able to come in. We've had guest judges that are attorneys. I haven't had a guest judge that's an actual judge yet, but maybe someday. And I've been lucky enough now to have some of my students who are third-year law students, second-year law students, first-year law students that have been very generous with their time and come back and have spoken to the kids about what it's like going through undergrad and kind of preparing for law school. What it's like being in law school, and then also working, with our law team after school. I mentioned that that's an extracurricular opportunity for kids that want to be involved and want to do a little bit more and kind of figure out what it's really like. And that starting now here, getting ready for our season, and we will be competing against all the other 214 schools. We've worked very closely with Wheeling over the last several years. We have a really great relationship with all the 214 programs as well. And then we'll compete over at the Rolling Meadows Courthouse. So kids will get the opportunity to go into a courtroom there. The judges remain in the courtroom that evening and judge the competitions, along with attorneys who have volunteered, to spend their evening with our students and watching them to compete against other schools. So it's really an amazing opportunity. They're all dressed up as if they are in court for the day. So that's another awesome experience. And then we'll go to the state competition as well. Anything else you wanted me to focus on there that I might have left off?
Oh, that was absolutely amazing. Definitely touching on all the opportunities that are here for our students. Like I said, one thing for me, I would say for someone coming from the outside, someone who worked in other districts, coming to District 214, the opportunities are endless. The level of opportunities that we provide our students are second to none. And I'm sure we'll touch on it a little more, but we see over and over and over again that we continually have superintendents and administrators and teachers from across the state and from across the nation who are constantly coming to District 214 to check out these different spaces and to understand how we do these things. But as we pivot, Ariel, I know I said I was going to come back to this question, but I really want you to talk about your work-based experience and specifically your internship, specifically your apprenticeship, and how did that prepare you for where you are looking to go in the future?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So in terms of my experiences, I also did mock trial and debate and other activities that are extracurriculars, but coming into Kathy's internship, this started in January of this year and it lasted until May. So despite it only being a few months, it really allowed me to get a true understanding of what being in a law office actually is. And I think there is something to the fact like most lawyers don't spend their entire day in a courtroom. I think that is something that we have to kind of realize. And with Kathy, I think, comparing my experience with Kathy and my experience with Mr. Nauman, I think immigration law maybe has like a little bit more of a human element to it. So I think there is something to, when it comes down to like the work that I did, like she was saying, I really like listened to our clients. I tried to formulate different affidavits or different sworn statements, and this allowed me to kind of like synthesize information and submit it to agencies like USCIS. So it really allowed me to like have like a true impact, I would say. And especially coming in like still in high school, like that's an experience that I wouldn't necessarily get at other high school districts. So I'm very fortunate that I'm here, that I'm part of the district, I'm part of Wheeling High School, and I'm able to have the internship and apprenticeship experiences. And then coming into Mr. Nauman's firm, this started in June of this year. And obviously over the summer, I had more time. Over the summer, I was kind of working like a 9 to 5 almost. And now that I'm in school now as a senior and with college apps, obviously it's a little bit of a shortened schedule. But despite that, more of the work is kind of transactional, as we were kind of talking about. A lot of it is very communication dependent with both Kathy and Mr. Nauman. It's very like email, phone, and one of the attorneys at Mr. Nauman's firm, she's kind of the primary person I work with in terms of real estate. And there's kind of this checklist that I have to get through every day when it comes down to what actually needs to get done. And that helps me stay very organized and helps me stay efficient with what I'm doing. So I guess my final kind of thought on that, on all of this is that, I think a lot of people think if you don't really have a law degree, like what are you really doing in a law office? And is the work that you're doing, is it really going to be substantial? And I can say that yes, for sure it is substantial because part of why, I'm doing this internship, doing this apprenticeship is to just, help people and make their lives easier, make my boss their lives easier, make the partners at the firm their lives easier. And you can make a real difference in these experiences if you're willing to try new things and if you're willing to ask and ask for help and try to help whenever you can.
All right, you're giving me goosebumps tonight, man. I those responses are dead on, man. I really appreciate that. As we turn back to our industry partners, just want to get a word of advice. I know we've hit on a lot of different things, but a word of advice for our high school students, right? Someone who may be on the fence, right? Or someone who is interested in a career. What word of advice do you have for them as they walk into our schools and walk into our classes?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is to really look around because the opportunities are really like everywhere. In the schools, like when I was in high school, I mean, I had no idea I would possibly want to go to law school. I really had zero idea what lawyer, I mean, I knew what lawyers did from TV, but literally I didn't really know what was involved. And I didn't decide to go to law school until I finished college. Literally, I was like, okay, I'm done with college, and now what do I do? Maybe I'll go to law school, right? So, but now you guys, you have these pathways that if you really think that's what you want to do, you have a way to like really get an edge up on even people before you get to college. And it's a competitive world. So if you try a pathway and you don't like it, so what? Move on to the other pathway, right? As long as it's early enough in your high school career. one of my legal assistants who is just completed her legal studies program, her associate's degree at Harper, started off at Wheeling High School in the health field career path, and she thought, oh, I'm gonna, be one of these CNAs, and then maybe I'll go into nursing or medical school or something like that. And now she is convinced she wants to be a lawyer, but she pivoted soon enough in her high school career and then transferred into Harper and really realized, okay, medicine was interesting, but I think the law is for me. So ask questions, get out there. Also, don't be shy about asking people, like me or Mr. Nauman, can I come shadow you for a couple of days, maybe in the summer when I finally have a breath of fresh air from all my classes and all my extracurriculars? I don't mind people coming into the office and shadowing me and just kind of seeing. Some people walk out of here, they're like, holy cow, I could never do that for a living. That was a nice experience, but I'm not doing that. Or they might be like, wow, I could actually see myself doing that for a career. And I always tell people, like, you don't have to go to law school. You can be a killer paralegal or legal assistant, or there's so many fields. You don't necessarily have to go all the way through law school, which is expensive. There's many different careers that you can do. Even Ariel touched on it. You don't have to go to law school. You can, sure. But it's a competitive world. So get out there and figure out, is this really what you want? And ask for help. People like me are more than happy to help, to the point where my assistants are like, stop offering things because I'm busy and they want me to focus on stuff. But I think most people are willing to help and let you shadow them. And like I said, you might do a quick little 3-hour experience. You'll be like, okay, at least I know I don't want to do that, right? Why not? If you have that opportunity, go for it. Ask for help. There's help out there.
Thank you so much for that. Mr. Nauman?
All right, 3 things. First of all, Ariel will attest, I was checking the names on here. I don't see any other prior interns, but I've said this to every intern that ever came in my office. It's not too late. You could become a baker, do anything, save yourself, okay? If you're gonna go through, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of preparation, probably not nearly as much as a physician, the training for that, but it's going to be excruciating, so you have to be prepared for that. And I'm not trying to dissuade, well, I guess I am trying to dissuade you. You're going to have to be ready, okay? That's number 1. It's not too late. Become anything else. Number 2, but I love my work. Don't get me wrong. I'm just telling you, you got to be ready for it. Number 2, the pathway system that 214 has and all these opportunities, super tremendous for inspiring you to pursue a passion that you have a talent for. Love that because it's engaging students who might not otherwise be engaged. The drawback is you're starting to specialize as a freshman, which is unfortunately patently ridiculous. Become a generalist, in my view, as much as you can. Learn how to learn, become a lifetime student. Make sure that you're absorbing and learning how to think and not just stuck in becoming a practitioner. I see these kids when I'm doing mock trial judging at the high school on scrimmages, performing better than many attorneys perform in the courtroom. And they're already trained to present evidence and to make their case and to pivot better than a lot of grown professionals. But don't over specialize too fast, because if you just become a tradesperson without broader thinking, it will harm how you interact with your clients, it'll harm how you advise them. And then kind of spilling into the third thing, you've got to learn at this point in your life, when you're facing all this pressure, how to manage the priorities and have work-life balance. And Miss Cantieri, who's our host, I have to confess at this point, my son who's a junior, and probably my wife and another kid are watching right now, so just mute them so they can't object. I have maybe not established a good work-life balance, but I want you to establish good work-life balance. So it's better than it could be. If you are really good with your grades and you end up getting a job in the city, Chicago, New York, wherever, I'll promise you this, they don't give you any free lunches, but they give you free dinners. You're there at 6:30 and then, hey, why don't you stick around and work until midnight? They want your hours. They want your hours. They want you there 80 hours a week if they can get it. And if you don't learn how to create space for yourself now, it may be impossible to learn that later. And that's the ruin of a lot of good professionals.
Thank you so much. I was in a meeting with a couple of administrators the other day, and I asked that same question. I said, "When, where's that work-life balance?" And someone said to me, "It's more of a work-life rhythm, finding that rhythm." So that's what I'm trying to get to right now. So I totally agree. Ms. Blazik, talk to me a little more in regard to dual credit. What dual credit do we have available, right? And what are the capabilities of our students in regard to those dual credit courses?
Yes, so we have one dual credit course that we offer through the law pathway that we offer second semester. That's the college legal research class. It's an introductory class to legal research, preparing written arguments, delivering oral arguments, advocating for a position on behalf of your, mock trial client, um, appellate course proceedings. We're going to look at cases, right? We start prepping a little bit with basic legal briefs right now in constitutional law, and then trying to carry that over into that college legal research class. But Eastern Illinois University is our partner for that course. Students will get 3 credit hours through Eastern Illinois University on their transcript when they complete that class. They do need to take those 3 prereqs: American law, con law, crim civ, and then they do need to be a junior senior. That's an Eastern Illinois requirement. But my student I mentioned, one of my first students when we first started this pathway, is in his 3rd year of law school, but he's actually a year ahead of the game because of the dual credit classes that we offered, some AP classes that he took, and he did overload a little bit. Not a lot of work-life balance, I don't think, for him in college, but he was able to graduate from U of I in 2.5 years. And then he's been working with one of our partners, Donald Cosley, at his law office since high school, as well as helping out with our mock trial team. So he's, gotten 1 year ahead of the game and is now looking to graduate law school this year. So there are some great opportunities for those kids, that really know this is what they want. And I feel like that is one of the advantages to having all those pathways. Take a semester class. Like, a lot of kids take American law and they might not go on and take any other law classes, but it's a fun class and it's interesting and they liked it. And they do have some other options, though, if they are their interest is piqued, to kind of continue on that path. And those are the kids I feel like that are, doing the law team and that are graduating, nearly graduating now from law school, one at Northwestern, one out east. So that's really exciting to see. And it's also really a good feeling. We talked about, getting help, asking for help, giving help, working with kids, having those kids come back and seeing how much they appreciate the program that we provided for them, and them donating their time back to current students. That's really rewarding for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I do want to echo about the career pathways, right? Having the understanding that just because you start in a career pathway doesn't mean that you have to end in that career pathway. We always encourage our students. At the end of the day, we really want you to have the opportunity to explore while you're here, because it's much cheaper to explore in high school than it is to explore in college and make those changes in college. Speaking of post-secondary, though, right? Ariel, I'm going to come back to you in regard to some of that post-secondary. I want to hear about your post-secondary goals, your plans, and how District 214 has helped you prepare for getting to this point.
Well, if I were to say to myself, where am I going to be a year from now? I don't think I have a good answer. I'm still kind of in the process. Obviously, college applications are something that's big in my mind right now. And in terms of work-life balance or school-life balance, whatever you want to call it, it's kind of non-existent right now. But that's kind of the reality of it. And part of it is just learning how to prioritize and manage your time. So in terms of what my post-secondary plans are, I definitely want to go to a 4-year college. I definitely want to go into law school. And I think what Mr. Allen was saying is definitely true. You can study whatever you want in college, just as long as you're able to get good grades, study hard. And I'm not in college obviously, but I know, like, with law school, it's a competitive process, obviously, with admissions and all. And so you have to be willing to put in the time. I think definitely law has helped me find what I want to do in life, and I definitely want to be a lawyer. I want to go into that field. I'm not exactly sure what type of law, or if I want to do immigration law or real estate or anything like that. I think, the specifics I can always figure out later. It's just as long as I have kind of an idea of where I want to go, I think all of the rest would kind of just resolve itself. And I don't know if that's an answer necessarily that maybe you're looking for, but I think um, being able to generalize, as Mr. Allen was saying, in the law has kind of helped me figure out the rest of the road along the way, so to speak.
Awesome. Glad to hear that. And Arl, to answer your question, you being real is what we want, right? And that is what we want from all of our panelists. I'm just going to give a second. Are there any questions from any of our participants? Any questions here in the chat before we close up our session tonight? Any final thoughts from any of our panelists?
I think when I said save yourself, be a baker, we lost a quarter of our viewers. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for that.
But remember, even if you want to go into the law, you don't have to go to law school. You don't have to work at a huge law firm in downtown Chicago. You can work at a small firm like mine. I have work-life balance. Okay, maybe not every day, but there's some days that I don't have clients and I'm wearing flip-flops and I'm gonna run out and, run an errand in the middle of the day. There's all kinds of different firms, right? You can work at a small firm, you can work at a big firm, you can work at a very competitive firm, you can start your own firm, lots of options.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. We did have a question in the chat. Ms. Blazek, from your aspect as a teacher within the district, can you talk about a little bit of the gender breakdown in your class, the male-female breakdown in your class?
Oh, that's a great question. We have a pretty, I don't know statistics. I guess I'd have to look, but I think we have a fairly even balance right now in all of my classes. Sometimes it's a little bit more heavy on male side, some a little bit more heavy on the female side. But I think overall, most of the classes are pretty evenly balanced. I could do a quick fact check, and look at my rosters, but that would be my answer.
Thank you so much. There was also the question of demographically, what do our pathways look like? And demographically, one thing we've seen in general within our buildings is our pathways really dependent upon the building. So that demographic is really dependent upon the building. And it really mirrors the building demographics. So again, that's a question that will be more individualized towards the building. Feel free to reach out to your division head in individual buildings to answer that question, because that really is going to depend on what building that you are in. Would contract law be a stepping stone for sports management?
That's a good question. My son actually is interested in sports management, anything sports related, and he's in business school right now. And so I've actually been, being my helicopter parent self and asking lawyer friends, do you have to go to law school to be a sports agent or a consultant and all that? And all my lawyer friends are like, of course you need law school, that's contracts. But he's finding other little sneaky ways to possibly avoid law school and still get into that career field. So, but definitely, if you want to do sports management, I think it's a lot of contracts and seems like law would be a logical pathway, but I am secretly searching that. So if you want to reach back to me maybe in a year or so, I might have a better answer for you.
Yeah, I would echo that. I mean, just case in point, everybody knows that real estate agents are dealing with contracts virtually every day of their lives. Virtually none of them are attorneys. Very few real estate agents are attorneys. They've been trained to do what they do. They know the ins and outs. And I think agents in general, sports agents, entertainment agents of all kinds, they don't have to be attorneys, but a lot of law firms are the people that the sports, the big athletes and that the big entertainers choose to represent them. So yeah, it definitely can't hurt. You want to do that well and do it soundly, and that'd be a great stepping stone in my view.
Thank you very much for that. Perfect. One thing I do want to mention, and I tend to have this conversation quite a bit. I challenge folks all the time, right? Look around the state, look around the nation, and look at opportunities. And I think John Hersey High School, I think District 214 We provide some amazing opportunities for our students, and we can't do that without our educators, right? We can't do that without our partners. So we are definitely grateful for each and every one of you, but we really can't do it without our students. So again, I want to give a huge thank you to our panelists. I want to give a huge thank you to the individuals who are here today attending. And we hope that in the future that we continue to work together to provide opportunities and again, create better tomorrow for our students. Thank you so much for your time. We really, really appreciate you stopping in College and Career Night with the Law Pathway with us tonight. Have an awesome night.